exciting to see our faces up there. Close. Well, good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals, this December 14, 2023. And we have a number of items on the agenda this evening. And the first is the, oh, I'm sorry, I still have to make this statement, don't I? Our governor requires me to state the following. My name is Steve DeYoung, and I'm the chairman of this Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. We will now convene the December 14 meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals, as required by General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, known as an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. As extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, the public are able to attend this meeting either in person or via the alternative public access. Members of the public may watch the meeting live on Channel 18 or watch and/or participate in the meeting hosted in Zoom. The meeting notice provides necessary instructions for how to join the meeting via Zoom. Please note that audio, video, and screen sharing functions will be disabled for all attendees. You may request to participate by using the raise hand function. We will now call a roll call as required by the governor, which is, we'll start with Mr. Igo. Is Mr. Igo present via Zoom?
I'm here.
I hope you're warm, Mr. Igo.
I'm
Dick Martin is available to us via Zoom as well.
Yep.
All right,
A
Dick.
couple miles away from John.
Dave Frapery.
Here.
John Mantoni.
Here.
And I, Steve DeYoung, am present. We have a fully constituted board of regular members, and we'll now proceed with the first matter on our list. And that is the continued petition 5063, continued from November 9. It is the Harbor Club Incorporated doing business as Tugboats Restaurant, located at 21 Arlington Street, West Yarmouth, Mass. That property is in a zoning district R25. The applicant seeks to reverse the decision of the building commissioner and/or a special permit pursuant to 104.3.2 subparagraph 4 and/or a variance under 202.5 use designation N3 to allow entertainment/live music at the restaurant known as Tugboats. The applicant will request a waiver from the requirement for a certified site plot plan less than 2 years old. Good evening, Mr. Pizzuti, you're representing the petitioner.
That I am.
And would
Mr.
you
Chairman.
remind me, didn't we act already on the request to waive the 2-year?
I really don't have a recollection.
Okay, well, we'll just vote on it again if necessary. However, I did look at the file to bring myself back up to date, and we read several letters, both in support and in opposition to this petition. We're not going to read those again. I do have, however, a couple of new notes
Okay.
that I would read unless the parties are here and they wish to speak instead. We're not going to have you speak and read a letter. We'll invite you to do one or the other. So with that, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what's going on?
Sure. My name is Stephen Pizzuti, as you said, and to my left is Wayne Kirker, who's the president of the petitioner, which is Harbor Club, Inc. And behind me is Ted Zambellis, who is the manager of Tugboats. Tugboats is in a zone R25, which is a residential zone. It is pre-existing, non-conforming as a restaurant, that portion of the premises as a restaurant, since the 50s. It was confirmed through a special permit in 1979, Special Permit 1587. So we are a lawfully pre-existing restaurant. It was later confirmed the number of seats that it has in the restaurant was 254 with 7 standees. So that's all been permitted properly. Our last hearing, it was suggested that a variance might be necessary. And of course, we're here tonight to present the criteria for a variance. I'd still like to preserve my client's rights under the other two, or at least one that I had actually brought forth in the last hearing, which was a special permit to extend a lawful nonconforming use pursuant to Section 104.3.24. And that language, just to refresh your memory, states that other lawfully pre-existing nonconforming uses may be changed or extended, and then it says only upon special permit from the Board of Appeals, if it is determined that such change will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood zoning district than the existing nonconforming use. And my recollection is, it's a clear recollection that the board felt that entertainment was not permitted, and therefore a variance would be necessary. And of course, you know, I had taken exception to that. But that is your position. I'm sure it's not changed. But I did want to at least refresh your memory as to what our position was relative to that. And so I think the next thing, and one of the things I do want to say, having served on the Board of Appeals in the past and having been dragged till 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to do my absolute best to make
Not
this
gonna happen here.
as quickly as possible and give everybody else behind me the time that they need. So I'm going to just speak briefly about the appeal from the building inspector. I had requested that the building inspector make a determination that entertainment was an accessory use to the existing restaurant. And that criteria, the building inspector would have to make a determination that the use was not substantially more detrimental, and it was supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And that criteria sometimes really trips things up a little bit. So he brought it forward to the board and denied that. And so we'd be looking for the Board of Appeals to reverse that and state that the use would not be substantially more detrimental. And we went through very in depth in the last hearing as to the fact that the use as entertainment would really not affect the neighborhood significantly, substantially, or even moderately. And I think it's important to note, I just want to reiterate, because there was, in some letters, certain abutters had the impression that this was going to turn into some sort of nightclub, and we were going to have multiple performers. And that's not the case. And I want to just reiterate that the entertainment petition for a license that we submitted to the selectmen, or select persons, I should say, stated that there were 5 separate locations on the premises that entertainment could be. It didn't mean that there would be simultaneous entertainment. There would be one entertainer generally, possibly 2. One of the things I do want to mention is, and Ted was explaining this to me, that tours that they get, you know that on the shoulder seasons, tours are extremely important to restaurants, any type of hospitality. And Ted has explained to me that these tours often want to bring a performer, a singer, or whatever, on the tour with them, and of course he has to deny that. And certainly, the reiterating again that the entertainment is really to actually enhance the dining experience. It's not going to be entertainment such as entertainment at the Melody Tent. It's not going to be a nightclub, and it's going to be simple music, table-side type music. With that said, relative to the building commissioner, we believe that his decision should be overturned, that it should be an accessory use, and the detrimental impact is going to be non-existent. And that leads me really to the crux of tonight, which is the variance. And I want to just go through, for the benefit of anybody listening, the criteria for a variance. A variance shall be granted only in cases where the Board of Appeals finds all of the following: a literal enforcement of the provisions of this bylaw would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and the hardship is owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which the property is located, and desirable relief may be granted without either substantial detriment to the public good, or nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. So as far as literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw, a hardship is, a substantial hardship is really defined to be found where there, but substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, is found where under the unique circumstances it is not commercially feasible or likely that the locus would be developed in the future for a use permitted by the zoning ordinance. So, in addressing that particular issue, it certainly would not be feasible on that property in its condition that it is now as a commercial venture to actually have a residence in there. You could not really feasibly convert the structures there to a residence to be next to a marina and the commercial uses that are located on that property. It just would not be feasible to really do that. So literally, a literal enforcement would not be economically or otherwise feasible. That's the first point. The second point is that a hardship owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is found. This, after really considering this, I do have to say that Kristen Walsh, who is my colleague behind me, actually raised a couple points that were really enlightening. The fact is, this property is extremely unique. It's unique because it's not only in two zones. We have a residential zone and there's a commercial zone. It's in two towns. And being in two towns, the primary use of the marina is in the harbor district in Barnstable. That allows all the uses, the commercial uses, the marine uses. It even has a ferry in that particular district. And the unique part about it is that property that's in Barnstable actually is dependent upon the R25 district to even access it. I think really when we're considering this whole file here, if we could turn back the hands of time in knowing the circumstances today on that property, we would want the property on the easterly side of Arlington to really be commercial where that marina is. It really is commercial. The nature of that whole property is commercial. And to actually focus on the structures, it even makes it more of a hardship because those structures are commercial in nature. And actually, by virtue of the fact of the restaurant being part of that, it's a hardship. There's no other way to say it. And financially, it's substantial because in order to convert that to something that would conform, it would not be feasible. And so I would submit to you that hardship is clear in this particular case. And the third factor is that relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or nullifying substantially or derogating or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. It has been determined by the appeals court that some derogation from the bylaw, there always has to be when you're looking for a variance. Otherwise, it would conform. So there has to be some derogation from the intent of the bylaw. It's supposed to be residential. So any type of variance from that would be some derogation. But that's not what the criteria is. It's substantial derogation from the intent of the bylaw. And because we're lawfully existing on that property, it would really be substantially detrimental to my client, and not really substantially detrimental to the neighborhood if relief wasn't granted. And so I would submit that the fact, as we went through in the last hearing, the fact that it's not going to increase traffic, it's not going to affect parking, and parking, as you know, there is done by valet. So it shouldn't have any effect whatsoever. And I want to, again, reiterate the fact that there are buildings enclosing where the music would be, between the residences on Arlington and the other residences on Bayview, shielded by the building. And we would certainly accept any condition that the doors be shut if there is any entertainment going on. But it's not going to be constant. It's going to be infrequent. It's not going to be every day. So I don't think at this point I have anything else to add, but would certainly be willing to entertain any of your questions or
The
suggestions.
licensing board,
Pardon?
licensing board has another run at
Yeah,
this.
and of course, as we know, that we talked about last time, that the
Why
licensing.
didn't we vote on it last time? Why the continuance?
Well, I think that you thought that a variance was necessary as opposed to the special
So
permit.
that issue, the variance versus
It
special
was
permit.
the variance.
I'm getting very old when I can't remember what I ate for dinner.
Well, that was a
last
while
night.
ago.
Yeah. Long time ago. All right, let's see. Let's start with Mr. Martin. Any questions of our petitioner, Mr. Martin?
No, I've read through everything. I think I understand what's planned here, and
Could you bring your microphone a little closer to you because you're hard to
Okay.
hear?
all right, I don't have any questions at this time. I'm satisfied.
Okay, how about you, Mr. Igo? Any questions?
Yes, I have a few. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Now, Counsel, you said this isn't going to happen every day. Why don't you elaborate on how often you're going to have entertainment over there, so we have a good idea, because it's not really. I'm not clear exactly what you're asking for here as far as days, hours, types of entertainment. You haven't really been
Well,
specific on that.
I did submit with the package, the license application, which specified 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. And those were just the hours within which you could have entertainment, not that they were going to have entertainment every day. And I think, Wayne, you might want to
Yeah.
expound on that a little bit.
I would say it would be very infrequent in the summertime. It would be more frequent in the fall and early winter, because that's when you get the buses, and that's when you have Christmas parties, that sort of thing. And I suppose in April and May, it would happen, we would have some entertainment here and there, but it's a very here and there situation. We don't plan to run it every night so as to get people thinking this is a place to come to for entertainment. Certainly not every night. other than there being 2 Christmas parties and a birthday party in a row, it's not what we want, and it's not what we propose to do.
And what type of entertainment are we talking about? Are we talking about singers, DJs?
Well, a combination, there would be,
amplified music?
excuse me, yeah, there would be DJs, and if there were singers, it's 1 or 2 performers. It's not a band where keeping them under control is an issue.
Okay. And I was just looking at your sketch, and I see these are the placements that you want to put potential entertainers. You have it listed 1 through 5 on your entertainment
Can I see
plan.
that? Yes, we did it that way so that depending on what size the party was, would decide which deck might accommodate them or which room indoors would accommodate them best. For example, as you walk in the main door to the dining room to the right can seat more people than the dining room straight ahead. So depending on the size of the party, we would have them, we would place them in the smaller or the larger dining room, and depending on and if they wanted to be out on the smaller deck, we would kind of fit them as they chose. But we wouldn't have several entertainers at once competing in different rooms for different parties and that sort of thing. And up above, in the upper bar, you'll see that the TVs are there because people like sitting at a bar and watching sports or watching whatever they like to watch. That's number 5 on this. So, and you'll notice that, and in each case, we easily have the ability to aim the speakers towards the building instead of towards the outdoors. And even if we did aim it outdoors, we're now aiming it towards the harbor and not towards Arlington Street or Bayview Street. And relative to having it loud and heading towards the harbor, we have entertainment down the other end of the marina, and we don't intend for the music from tugboats to get as far as those docks. So once again, in repeating what Steve just said, between this entertainment and Arlington Street, there's a building, and there's one, and if the doors are all closed, I don't see how music is going to escape from the buildings and get over there. The number 5 does face the street. It doesn't face the street, but does have access to the street, if you think about it. But it's small. It has bar stools and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 tables is all it has. So that's the one that's why Steve mentioned keeping the doors closed, because if that door is closed, we don't have to worry about the neighbors hearing it, and it's very important to us that we remain friendly with the neighborhood.
Now,
And s-
number 1, that's out on your deck. Are you proposing at the time that you have entertainment that'll all be closed off?
When there's entertainment on the outside decks, numbers 2 and 3 don't have any. It would be, I don't know how you'd get sound to pass through that building and out onto the street. Number 5 being the upper bar has TVs, and that's considered entertainment. And I suppose if there were a DJ up there, it's easy to control them.
I'm more specifically looking at sketch number 1. That's on an open deck, isn't it?
Yes, but there's an awning on top of it, and so typically, well, all the time, that if you notice where we put it, that's so that it doesn't aim towards it just can't get to the neighbors. The noise would have to go over that building or well around it. So we planned this so that we could not, it took a long time to have a friendly neighborhood, and we want to keep it that way. Oh, and speaking of that neighborhood, none of the letters that came in our favor came from any of the tenants we have in houses we own on that street. So any letters you see that are in our favor are letters from people who don't live in the houses we own.
I think that another point to make is that this is going to be dining music. And so it's not going to be loud because it's going to be very close to the tables. You know, it's a family establishment. So it's not that type of establishment where you have a band and, you know, it's not a dining club. It's going to be soft music, and I know, I've been in front of so many boards that everybody always says, oh, it's not going to be loud, it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a nightclub. I can really sit here in all confidence and say, from everything that I've heard from my clients and Teddy, is that it is going to be an enjoyable, quiet, it's not going to be a loud environment in there. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for their business.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Igo?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
How about you, Mr. Mintoni?
Well, so there won't be any scheduled band every Friday night or so. This is more arbitrary than, right? So when I can say every Friday night, we've got the Irish tenors in there.
That's exactly correct.
What time does the restaurant close?
The restaurant stops serving about 10:30 or 11, and at the upper bar, the people, it's up there right till closing time.
Which is,
The upper bar, which is, I think our license expires at 1 o'clock inside the bar.
and then there's always a manager on the property, right, on the premises?
Yes,
in case
there is.
anything got too loud, they could control that sort of thing, right?
That's right. And, you know, Ted and I give our numbers to the neighbors so that anybody had to call, we're reachable, and
Someone's-
we're there.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Frapery?
I think the hours of operation and type of music were the two things I have concerns about, so those questions were asked, so I really don't have any other questions. I guess the one thing I would say is, I know I brought up the issue of the variance versus the special permit last time.
Yeah.
And so I'd be happy to talk about that further if you want, just for a few minutes, because I'm kind of gone back to the point where I agree with you, the special permit might be appropriate with conditions.
Will you go ahead and educate us? That's fine.
I just read through it a couple different times, and
Can everybody hear him okay?
No,
okay, sorry about that. I read through the bylaws a couple more times and tried to go back and forth between different items, and I kind of do believe that this is an extension of a pre-existing non-conforming. And I was questioning that last time, and that's why I was pushing for the variance, and I apologize for not.
Well, no.
But,
I mean, you know, the point was well raised. The issue is whether entertainment stands alone as a use.
Right.
And that's really what's confusing when you look at the table. It talks about theater, including, and then it says performances. So it's really like, potentially like a music room, or it's kind of like the Melody Tent, or it could possibly be like the old Camelot room that you might remember years ago.
So anyway, I guess if I go back to, you know, what I think is the appropriate approach here is a special permit. It wouldn't be to reverse the decision of the building commissioner or variance.
Yes.
But I'll leave that up to the rest of the board if they would agree with that. So, just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
So I've got a couple of questions that maybe you two can't answer, but maybe Mr. Zambellis can. Have there been police out to your facility during your operation of it, Mr. Zambellis? Have there been any police out there due to parking issues or illegal parking issues? And Mr. Kirker, where do the valets take the cars if not on the property, right adjacent?
Actually, we have them all on the property.
Okay.
Because we manage the goings-on at the marina to where, when Trader Ed's needs it, which is not at the same time, tugboats typically slows down well before Trader Ed's. And most importantly, we always have space for our boat customers to park.
Well, you know, we really, I don't want to get into Trader Ed's because they're in Barnstable, they're not
Yes.
in Yarmouth, so that's Barnstable's problem, okay? But, and we're going to leave it to them. But with respect to this property, I'm wondering if you took that Area 1, the big outside deck, we all know what we're talking about, right? And you pushed all of those tables over to the side somehow and stacked them or whatever, you create a dance floor, don't you?
It's conceivable, but
Oh, you're going to have parties there. I'm just wondering, do you have a wind screen that can go down that, I'm sorry, I don't have a compass direction, but the open side towards the parking lot, not towards the water, but towards the driveway in? For that Area 1?
we do for that first half of that where the awning is. We have curtains that can go there.
What's that, 3 and 2? 2 and 3, rather? I'm asking specifically
It's right where the
about
number one is. A windscreen can go down there, then it runs halfway out the deck, and then further than that, there's a tent we sometimes have up out there further. So there are windscreens. They're fabric, but they're screens.
Well, plastic is a pretty good way to block noise emanating off the property.
Yes.
And my concern is, I don't care what goes out to the water, you know? People on the boats probably want to listen to music till 3 in the morning if they could get away with it. And I don't know why they can until somebody calls the police and says they're too loud. Same thing with this. A remedy is pretty clear. You are only allowed so many decibels at certain hours. And if you exceed that, then somebody's going to call the police and you're going to be cited and pay a fine. But what I'm asking specifically is, I don't care about halfway. Do you have the capacity to put a windscreen all along that side opposite the bar and as it faces the parking lot or stairs up?
It would be difficult because there's nothing to attach that screen to out there.
Well, how do you do it in the wintertime when you have guests out there?
We don't use the outer deck as soon as it gets cold. People just don't want to be out there. So we only use the area under the awning. There's heat. So in the off season, people will go out under the awning, but if they want to go to the outer deck, they have to get through a curtain to get out there. And we certainly wouldn't have the entertainment out beyond the curtain. So the entertainment is within the curtained off area.
Well, I'm not concerned about entertainment in 2, 3, 4, and quite frankly, I think it's, from my experience of being in that bar, and yes, I have been a patron up there, that music in the upstairs bar is a no-brainer. But what I'm concerned about is amplification of any type in the area designated as 1, being the large outside deck, that could cause music to go off the property. So I guess there's a couple of remedies for that as we contemplate this, that we put hours very specific for music in Area 1, or we limit the type of music that can be. For example, an acoustic guitar, no amplification, something along those lines. But I'm very concerned about Area 1, and only because I think that it's left to open, that music's going to go off premises. And I don't think there's going to be an issue, because I think the management of this property, between the two of you, Mr. Zambellis and you, Mr. Kirk, aren't going to allow it to become something that perhaps we can refer to as the lower end of the parking lot has become on occasion. And I really can't understand why a guest would want to have loud music next to their dinner table. I mean, it doesn't go together, you know? It's a restaurant, and that's what it is. But the upstairs bar, to me, is something different. That's not intended to be anything other than what it is, a bar, where people come off their boats, they go upstairs and they talk. I'm blessed to have a friend who has a boat down there, and occasionally, instead of sitting on the boat, we like to go up and see people that we've said hi to in town, the town over the years. And it's a friendly area and a nice area. And again, I don't have any problem with 1, 2, 3, I'm going to say 2, 3, or 4, and 5. It's 1 that concerns me. And if you can suggest some remedy to abate my concern, that would go a long way.
Give me just 1 second, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put it out of business because I think it's a great location, but left open,
Because they don't want it. Well, no, but the way it's drawn, it looks this way, so I can say to them, it would only be.
Well, why don't you two talk about it for a minute? While you're doing that, I'm going to read a couple of letters into the record, okay? Excuse me. This is from Myrna Evans. Myrna, are you here? Okay, I'll read it. I'm writing this note in response to a hearing notification I received for a hearing date of 12/14/23, petition 5063, which was continued from November 9, 23. I live at Bayview Street, 125, which is the street over from the restaurant Marina. I do not feel that there should be live music at the restaurant, as in the summertime you hear the noise of cars, talking, hollering, fights, etc., when people are coming and going from the restaurant at all hours of the night. It is very disturbing when it wakes you from the noise, from all the noise. People are very inconsiderate as the houses are so close to the restaurant/marina. While I'm at it, the noise from Trader Ed's that is on the property is just as disturbing, as the police are called there so often, and lots of problems there. One last thing, I feel that the people that live on Arlington Street closer to the marina would not write a complaint letter, as most of them are renting from Mr. Kirker. Mr. Zambellis, how long have you run that restaurant? 4 years. Who's flashing their arm back there? Is there something you wanted to say? Okay, so you've been running it for 4 years? Have the police come in response to fights that have been from patrons of your restaurant?
Not from my restaurant, no.
And, I mean, it's a family restaurant, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, I was surprised to read that the thought from here was that there were noise from cars, certainly. I mean, that's a given. Talking, I think that's all right. Hollering may not be, though. And certainly fights in the parking lot is something I wouldn't want to see or aggravate the situation to allow for. So have there been fights of which you're aware? Okay, and how about hollering, your patrons going out hollering? And on a normal summer's week, how many hours are you in operation there? How many hours are you present?
14,
Daily?
daily.
Are you there at night?
I am.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to go to the next letter, and we'll come back to my question about Area 1 in just a minute. This is December 4, 2023, a letter from Ann Simeon. Is Ann here? Would you like me to read the letter, Ann, or do you want to say something at the mic?
You can read the letter.
The letter? Okay. So this is from Ann again. I am writing this letter to express my opposition to the zoning change request by the restaurant Tugboats to allow for entertainment and music and their location on Arlington Street in Yarmouth, Mass. Via such a change. The restaurant is in a residential neighborhood and has always been in a residential neighborhood. It is currently zoned as a residential entity. The restaurant has not always been a good neighbor, although instituting such improvements as valet parking so that cars are not scattered throughout the neighborhood has been welcome. However, there is yet to be a solution for the many people who cannot find the restaurant, including food vendors who decide to use local driveways, side streets, and the middle of Bayview Street as the place to make turnarounds to recalibrate the navigation systems. As an aside, I want to tell you, I live down a private road, and I'm the last house on the road. And I can't tell you how many people have come down with boat trailers that they don't know how to back up, or delivery vans, thinking that I'm the house they want to be at, and have to put up with that baloney. I understand your concern there. How is it I know this? I have been in the neighborhood my entire life, and I have seen the marina, the hospital, and other institutions in the neighborhood evolve. My family home has been on Bayview Street since 1956, and my grandparents broke ground. I'm sorry, when my grandparents broke ground. I think that makes you a native. I'm not sure. You're a real Cape Codder. I grew up in Brockton, so I can't claim it, but I am also a customer at Tugboats. I enjoy the restaurant and also the proximity of it to the neighborhood. What I have not enjoyed over the years are the many people who get lost and turn around on Newbury Street without regard for driving over my lawn as they turn around. I do not enjoy the loud music that spills over from Trader Ed's and perhaps the restaurant as well. Most of all, I do not enjoy the overflow people who decide to walk around the neighborhood after they have had too many drinks. I read with interest the letters in support of it and in opposition to this change. Those opposed share my primary view that allowing a zoning change to allow for entertainment there is not suitable for a residential neighborhood. Those in support consider Tugboats to be a good neighbor, but are essentially in support of an entertainment license for the restaurant. While entertainment licenses can be granted and rescinded, I expect that once a zoning change is instituted, it is hard to rescind. The zoning change will be hard to rescind. Therefore, I stand in opposition with my neighbors on this zoning change. If Tugboats truly wants to be a restaurant and thinks they need music in their establishment, then they should not be zoned in a residential neighborhood, and they should not have live entertainment, especially no live entertainment in an outdoor setting. I do not think Tugboats lacks for customers given the traffic around the restaurant all year long. In many years, I have patronized Tugboats over the years. I have never found it lacking for customers. Personally, if the restaurant can't support itself with good food, good service, and the location, then music isn't going to help it sustain its viability. I request that this board take seriously the implication of granting this current zoning request. I think it will set a bad precedent for the neighborhood and the town and eliminate small neighborhood restaurants throughout the town if the zoning designations of residential and commercial establishments are not upheld. And again, that's signed by Ann Simeone. Thank you, Ann, for your letter. So, does anybody in our, I'm sorry, did you have a solution to the question I posed to you about Area 1? I'd rather you do it from there if you can. I've got this in front of me.
Right.
So.
Well, we label the area Area 1, but I drew this yellow line here, and that's where that's where the awning ends, and it is curtained off. And people that want to go people want to go outside need to pass through the curtain. And the curtain is up certainly when it's below, for most of September, October, et cetera. And in the summer months, we have the curtain up when needed. And
So
if we need-
now you can pass that up since you've referenced it, and I don't want to have dialogue with you about it up here. I just want to receive it and show it to my fellow board members. Unfortunately, we can't do that with Dick and Sean, but,
There's an awning on both sides, too. There's on the side.
you got to say, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Zambellis, but you got to speak into a microphone. We can't have it otherwise. So, all right, thank you. So you're telling me that this yellow curtain is something that can be put up?
Yes, and it's up, if it,
It's a permanent, sorry.
Once again, you got to move up to the table and speak, that's all. It's just people at home actually do write in or call in and say that it's very frustrating to listen to a meeting but not hear all the people speak, and that's why I'm insisting on a microphone, okay?
No problem.
Not to be a smartass.
No.
All right, so that yellow hang on, that yellow that you're showing me is a curtain that can be, even in the summertime, utilized.
it can be.
It's a permanent curtain that's rolled up in the summer but comes down every night before we close. And there's curtains on the side, too, that pretty much stay down the whole time, the one that faces.
Yeah, I'm not actually concerned about the curtain as it traverses the Area 1. I'm much more concerned about, and again, there's not an compass here, but I think you know
On the
what I'm
side?
talking about.
Yes.
This side.
There's a permanent-
Right where the number 1 is.
Yes.
All
there-
right, so, John, is that, Dick and Sean, I can describe it as being a curtain that is right after the first 2 tables when you walk in and dissects the room from there.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with that particular curtain that they're talking about. It runs along, the one they're talking about, I believe, runs along the southerly side of the property.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to keep this, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to mark it as Exhibit 1, Mr. Pizzuti.
Thank you.
And I don't mean to make this sound like a court, but that's what we have to call them.
Perfect. Used to it.
I'm not a judge, I promise you. Although I remember years ago in Barnstable, they had a fellow that thought he was a judge. That's a different story for a different night. Does anyone in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone. If you had a letter or something that you sent in and I've read it previously, please don't bother coming to the microphone because we're not going to get 2 tries at the apple. When you come to the microphone, please tell us who you are, where you live, and what your interest in this petition is.
Yes, my name is James Twittick, and I live at 20 Arlington Street, and I'm a year-round resident there. And we often sit on the front porch in the evenings, and we love to see people coming up and down the street. And I have to say, I haven't seen anybody drunk or falling down and, water in the roses. As far as the noise level goes, the only thing I'm hearing on occasion is music coming from the boats. People hanging out on the boats perhaps coming in, but I have never heard music from the Trader Ed's. I have never seen police vehicles there. I think I did see an ambulance there one time during the summer. But I'm in favor of this entertainment. It's a wonderful place, and it's managed extremely well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would care to speak in favor of this petition? Please come. Tell us who you are, what your interest is.
Good evening to all. My name is Shane Greer. I live at 24 Arlington Street and have for the last 26 years.
But you're not a native.
No, I'm not, sir.
Hey, want to make that distinction.
No, there you go. There was a famous boxer once said, and I stand up here to tie myself, that you can run from the past, but you can't hide from it. Well, that being said, I have 3 things. One is a concern, and that is how late they get approved for. Does that extend into the neighborhood? So the people who rent in the neighborhood, can they extend their parties to that time? B, just so the people of Barnstable know, we in Yarmouth realize that there is a $150 million piece of property being developed called the hospital. That is just an observation for them. And finally, I'd like to make a statement that I am totally in favor of this because the neighborhood has been very quiet for me. I agree with this lady that occasionally somebody will come up the street, a gaggle of girls at 12:50 a.m., totally out of their minds drunk, but that's a passing thing. That's something that cannot be controlled by the restaurants or anything else. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Any questions? I'm sorry. No. Anybody? Hey, how about you two? Mr. Martin, Mr. Igo? Any
No
questions? No? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Does anybody else care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone, let us know who you are. Seeing none. Does anybody care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the microphone, tell us who you are and what your interest in this petition is.
Thank you very much. My name is Maureen Ryan, and I live at 8 Newberry Street, which is just off of Bayview Street. It's about 25 yards off of Bayview Street. And I'm in a butter. I received the postcard, and that's why I'm here today. I wanted to say that I am opposition for several reasons. First is, having lived there for many years now, in the last 2 summers, over different nights and weekends, there has been amplified music that has come from this site. I am not saying it's coming from tugboats, but I am saying that it has come from the site, and we can actually hear it in our bedroom window. So much so that we can't sleep, and it keeps us up until the actual music goes off. So it's not something that's just in our imagination. It's actually something that we've experienced, and we know that this area can have loud enough music that it does travel that far, and it's not very far. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the letters of support, and it was great to be able to read those online, they all talk about how well managed it is, good food, it's a family restaurant, all of those things. I am not here to dispute any of that, and I agree with that. I think we've been very impressed with how that has been handled in the last couple of years under this management and under this owner. The issue is that this is about changing the variance or special permit, whichever way we're going to go tonight, for something that is going to change this usage from a restaurant, which it has been for 70 years, to now entertainment and live amplified music. They are asking for 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We are being told that, yes, it'll just be occasionally, it'll just be for parties, it'll be for tour buses, it'll be whatever, but that's not what we're here about tonight, because that will change what they're allowed to do, whether it's this organization or whoever is the new owner in the future, to be able to do entertainment, live music, and basically no constrictions. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that I'm a film professional. I actually work in the film industry, and I deal with live music quite a bit. Putting up a curtain, putting the music out towards the marina does not stop it from traveling everywhere else. It's not a barrier enough, unfortunately. From an acoustician point of view, it doesn't do that. And both number one, which you pointed out, Chairman Young, that is literally outside. Number two is actually outside, but it has these panels that can be rolled up and put down at any time. So it's essentially outside, because that little bit of plastic is not going to be enough to actually stop the noise from being transmitted. And point number three, the position number three, is actually just next to a rather big opening that goes right out onto the deck there that looks out onto the marina. I think one of the things that I've been hearing tonight is about how this detrimental to the community. Well, it's certainly a benefit to tugboats. It allows them to have tour buses coming in on the shoulder season, to have parties, to have receptions, and all of that for them to be able to make more money and maximize. But there's literally no benefit for any of us here in the community that abuts it. We right now enjoy what music they have on the stereo. We enjoy the good food, and we enjoy the beautiful spot right on the marina. Adding this adds nothing, no benefit, and it actually is detrimental. So I think we should keep in mind that the building inspector, when asked, determined that it was detrimental and rejected this request. Let me just look at my notes. I also think we should keep in mind that the music will travel wherever it travels, and it can travel to anybody who has their boat parked there. I don't think they're going to be very happy about it if that's not something they want to hear that night, and also to the other side of the harbor, and we should just keep that in mind. I think the last thing I wanted to say is my concern about the change of the quality of life in this community that has been established for so long, for generations, and has had the benefit of having the quiet because of this zoning, because of the R25. I want to thank you very much for this democratic process. This is the first time I've been a part of this at the zoning board. It's been incredibly
wonderful?
impressive.
Let's fight for it.
And so no matter what happens here, and I appreciate that we're all able to say, whether in opposition or in support, that we're able to speak to each other, and it makes our community stronger. And then last, I have to do a shout out to Dolores. I didn't know anything about this process. I didn't know how to access the website. I didn't know how to do any of this, and she was so helpful via email and on the phone, and I just wanted to say it's been really great. So thank you very much.
Before you leave, let's everybody agree.
Yes.
Nobody liked Dolores. Nobody liked her. But there is something I'd like to address with you. You said that the building commissioner made a determination that this was detrimental to the town. And that's not quite what he did. He indicated that it's a non-conforming use, and that the expansion of the use for the requested entertainment would require either a special permit or a variance. But he certainly has no ability to make a determination, nor should he be making any determination as to whether or not something is detrimental to the town. That ultimately is the purview of this board. He works for essentially this board, and that's why we're here to enforce zoning. But I just want to correct that
Thanks
little
for the
point,
clarification.
okay?
I appreciate it.
And before you leave, I want to see if we can address an issue. Mr. Zambellis, have you had amplified music at your restaurant? I think there was one occasion where it wasn't there.
I just wanted to say that I'm not accusing them at all of that. I'm just saying it came from the area.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
find out
yeah,
the
yeah.
culprit, though, because there's a solution for anybody that's bothered by noise. And if it's Trader Ed's, you got to call the Barnstable Police. If he gets entertainment tonight and he exceeds what you think is reasonable, then you call the Yarmouth Police, and they come down and enforce the zoning bylaw, which allows for a certain decibel level at varying hours of the day. I can tell you that because the fellows were blowing leaves incessantly across my fence today for about 4 hours, and I could shoot them, but I didn't. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the microphone, tell us who you are, and let's see what you have to say. All right, so that ends the public input on the petition, and it now is for us as a board to begin discussion about this petition and whether or not to consider it as a variance or a special permit. I'm glad Jay did what he did, and makes him feel a little better, because we certainly want to proceed with the right relief, if we grant any relief. And so I ask, let's start with Mr. Igo. If I did it first with you before, I apologize, but I'm going to do it with you again. What are your thoughts, Mr. Igo?
Well, I'm not quite sure of any letters or determinations from the building inspector. I don't have any of those in my file. But this is not any petition to reverse any decision of the building inspector, so I don't think that's before us tonight, if I'm correct. Is that correct with you, Mr. Chairman?
That's my understanding.
Okay, because I saw it in the petition, that's why. In terms of a special permit, it is not an allowed use in this zoning district. So I'm certainly willing to listen as to how it becomes a special permit. But I thought we put this to bed last time, and I thought we were proceeding on a variance. If we are going to proceed at all, what I'd like to talk about is the hours of operation and the types of entertainment, and whether or not we consider any of these locations for the entertainment that we need to control. And so we have before us hours of operation, 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. I think given this location, I think 11:30 p.m. is too late to have entertainment in that district. I could probably go 10 o'clock, but after 10 o'clock, I think the entertainment should stop. In terms of the days of the week, the months of the year, that's up to the petitioner. I don't think we need to get involved with how they're going to bring people in or not. The types of entertainment, I guess in the past what we've done, if there's performers, we limit that to 1 or 2. We generally, if there's anything outside, we generally like to control the amplification, whether it's amplified or not. As we have, I'll give you an example, when we addressed the Bass River Golf Course, when they had outside entertainment. I do think if the petitioner is going to cordon it off with, I believe it's heavy-duty isinglass that he uses, which is pretty thick, and I think that would knock down a lot of the noise. If they can petition that off for Section 1 when they have entertainment there, that I think that's going to be fine. The others I'm very familiar. I'm in the restaurant. Full disclosure, I'm in there frequently. Occasionally, I'll say, maybe not frequently, but I'm very familiar with the restaurant over the years. I think most of the other locations would be okay. Number two, while I do think there is an outside element to it, I find that that's closed off most of the time. And it is tucked back into a corner where I do believe the building will knock down any noise relative to permeating over towards Arlington Street. I do think we need to be somewhat cognizant and sensitive to our neighbors across the harbor, because there are residences over there as well. So as we did so with the Bass River Golf Course and our good friends in Dennis, I don't think we should discount our friends in Hyannis. But I think if we can, I think we can grant the relief. I think it needs to be a variance. And but I will listen to anybody that wants to tell me otherwise. I do have an open mind, but my interpretation is a variance. I think we went over that last time. It's not a pre-existing non-conforming use. It never was a use at this location. If they had entertainment prior to this, then I think it could be under special permit. That would be probably extension. But those are my thoughts. I think hours of operation and doing what we can to limit the noise that comes out of the building by way of screens or some type of heavy-duty plastic that I believe that they use right now. But those are my thoughts, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And how about you there, Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I agree with Sean on pretty much all of that. I think I could be okay with this if it was, if the hours were cut back to 10 o'clock and there was no amplification of the sound. And I would also concur with him that I do think it's a variance as well.
Thank you. Mr. Mantoni?
I'd agree with both board members who have spoken. I think we should restrict the time. I think 11:30 is a little too late. 10 o'clock would be fine with me. Any sound barriers to help would be appreciated. And that's about it. I don't, I mean, I think it'd be nice to have some music at a restaurant. I don't object to that at all, so.
How about you, there, Mr. Frapery?
I'm comfortable with it, whatever they feel would be appropriate by the board, so if a variance is what they think is great. The only thing I would say is, in addition to what Sean and Dick went through, which I agree with 100% as far as the hours, et cetera, I'd like to make sure that we have some type of condition that it's tied to this ownership or management, which I think would be appropriate, and that if it changes, it should come back to the board. That would be a condition I'd like to see if we do pass this. That's all I had.
Yeah, I agree on that one, absolutely, that it be only for this current management and ownership, because we just don't know who's next going to go in there. It may be somebody who envisions it becoming a rock and roll club, and we're not going to allow that to happen for sure. As much
And
as
Mr.
I'd love
Chairman,
to have the
Dick Mar-
Rascals again in the town of Yarmouth, it ain't there.
And Mr. Chairman, if we could maybe put a one-year review on this too.
A one-year review?
Yeah, but, I mean, let me go through what I've got to say about it if I can. I agree absolutely that it's a variance now. I'm convinced that it's not an expansion or extension of a non-conforming use. There is no allowed use for entertainment.
But it's a change.
It's not, sure, and that's not the kind of change I envision that as referring to. Instead, I truly do believe the criteria, I believe you excellently suggested the criteria, virtually word for word of what our bylaw speaks to in terms of the conditions or the requirements for the grant of a variance. And I think you were right on each score. You certainly convinced me that you met the criteria. I've got a couple of concerns, and it's, I read in the application there will be 1 to 2 musicians. And so I'm assuming what that means is 1 to 2 zones. Is that right?
No, it's not right.
So-
Like, let's say that there's a guitarist and a vocalist. I think that's what was intended by that. So there could be 2 in one location.
Okay. Could there be others in other locations on the same night?
That's not something that we wanted to to do,
Typically not. Because when I read the application, I envisioned that what you were saying is there would be no more than 2 musicians in any location. And I don't want 10 musicians in these 5 locations.
nor does my client. Nor does my client want that.
Okay, so I could say, I mean, I'm just envisioning, I'm very familiar with the facility, having been dining at lunch there for probably 20, 25 years, and occasionally a dinner. And, you know, that upstairs bar area is just so conducive to having an acoustical guitarist up there. No amplification because it's not needed in that room. The noise gets loud enough, but we don't want to drown out the noise with loud music. So when when noise is too loud, people talking, boaters drinking and everything else, it gets a little boisterous in there. So you can't kill it with amplification. But I'd have no problem with one acoustical guitarist or soft vocalist. I don't know how you do a vocalist without amplification, but something along that line, but with no amplification in that area at any time. To me, it just enhances it. It reminds me of the Jimmy Buffett bar down in the Keys, you know, and with the peanut shells all over the floor. So just as long as you don't have peanut shells and you don't have amplification, I'd be fine with an entertainer there, plus 2 entertainers on the ground floor. But where and how? That's the big issue. And to me, I can't agree to have any outside, not enclosed entertainment. Okay, I just think entertainment's a given for this location. Again, I say to you, it'd be bad business in my mind for you to interrupt guests eating and conversing over dinner. So that'd be one reason why you'd keep the noise down, hopefully. But I think those guests are probably all done with their dinners by 10 o'clock. So I think that I could see a 10 o'clock limitation on anything on the first floor, and maybe an 11 o'clock up in the bar area. Something along those lines, I would
What
be.
about entertainment inside after 10 o'clock?
No, because I think that's going to be a 2-piece band, and it's there to enhance the dining experience, and the dining experience is pretty much done at 10 o'clock, whether it's here or anywhere.
They stopped serving, right, at 10, but
They stop serving at 10?
isn't that correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I agree with every other board member who has said 10.
Yeah.
The only place I don't agree with it on is the bar area, where I think it could be a little later, because that's completely enclosed once you put those windows down. And so, you know, to me, that also enhances that experience up there, to have a little soft music that people could hear, though. It's almost nullifies itself on certain hours, because people just talk way over what the music's gonna be, so it won't be that often that you'll have it up there. So I could agree to a 10 o'clock closing, and an 11 o'clock closing up at the bar area. I would.
Closing for entertainment, not closing
For
for...
entertainment, yeah. The noise abatement, I think that has to go into place irrespective of what room you're in, unless you're in, I mean, one, clearly, I've already indicated what I thought about that. But the other 3, I don't think you needed. My understanding of the facility is that it's a pretty solid structure for most of it, other than the deck area. And so there is a little bit of deck there, but I've sat out there, and I can't hear a darn thing coming from the harbor, and I can't imagine that there's a lot of music that's going to permeate through, albeit plastic is not the complete noise abatement that one would want to see in a perfect world. So I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are on the difference between the bar area and the rest of the restaurant, but I'm not going to support anything after 10 o'clock, save in that 1 hour up top. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think 10 o'clock all around is probably a better idea. We could have a review if they wanted to come back and try to modify it in the future. But
Okay.
I think
That's
to
fine.
get things started.
Yeah, I don't think, unless it's unanimous on that issue, I have no interest in pushing it. I do think that we have to have a one-year review with the petitioner being required to present to us at that review any and all complaints of whatever nature to the police department of the town of Yarmouth. Whether they come out because there's a fight out in the parking lot, I want to know about it. If it's a noise complaint from a neighbor, I want to know about it. And then we can act to modify or, at that point, rescind the grant that we're talking about here tonight. I think that it's up to you to police yourself and to make sure that that doesn't occur at your restaurant. If it hasn't occurred in your 4 years of running it, Mr. Zambellis, make sure it doesn't occur in the next 4 years, okay? And I think everybody will then appreciate the fact that they can go over to dinner and listen to a light guitarist playing oldies but goodies. So I don't have any other things that I think need to be done except for one-year review. And I hope you're taking notes, Mr. Pizzuti, because I'll look forward to a draft decision. A one-year review, hours of 11:30 a.m. You're going to put entertainment in there in the morning? What time do you serve lunch? 11:30. Oh, okay, 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. And if those are the only restrictions everybody else wants, that's fine by me. Anybody want to?
Just a condition of ownership.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm sorry, yeah, should ownership of the property change or management, current management of the property change, that would be a requirement that you so notify this board and return for further hearing.
I would like to address that, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. I can understand not that Teddy isn't going to be there forever, but managers, as you know, aren't always stable. They come in before licensing authorities all the time to change management. But this is kind of a unique situation because Mr. Kirker is really the license holder. And so Mr. Kirker also, through his entity at Hyannis Marina, Inc., owns the marina and has a vested interest in keeping everybody happy. I would respectfully request that you, if you are insistent upon having a condition regarding the change of ownership, then I would just really like you to limit it to the ownership with Mr. Kirker and management, because as you know that Mr. Zambellis is operating under a management agreement, which is very stringent. And so I would have all the faith in Mr. Kirker if there's a change of ownership with him.
Well, I understand Mr. Kirker may be the license holder, but I also understand that there have been prior management in that restaurant that did not do a good job. And Mr. Zambellis comes in and tells us he has a 4-year track record without complaints. I'm willing to bet on him, but I'm not willing to bet on some manager that I don't know, because there have been prior managers in there that have not done a good job. So,
And I'm in no way dissing Mr. Zambellis at all. He's a fabulous manager. But we all know that things change, managers change, and that's all. I understand your position, though.
that's a condition I want to see in it.
Okay?
Okay. And it's a one-year review to determine whether or not additional restrictions or changes need to be made, or that the variance be rescinded or continued without change.
So may I just ask, just to clarify, since I'm going to be drafting this, so regarding the ownership and management change, what is it, what is it that you're asking that if, let's say, Mr. Zambellis wants to move on, wants to move to Florida or something?
You come
so he
before
can
us
be
and
more-
tell us who the new manager is, and if we have confidence that they can run it the way Mr. Kirk, I believe, wants to run it, then this is all fine and good. But right down in the parking lot, we know that there is an offender, okay? And I love the operation, believe me, I've been in there, it's a wonderful time to be there. But we also know that there is a lot of noise that comes off that site into the 1 o'clock to 1:30 time frame that is probably bothersome to their immediate neighbors. And we're not going to see that happen in this restaurant.
I can respect that.
And believe me, I'm not here to criticize Trader Ed's. They do their business and they do it well, I guess. But that's not our concern. I just don't want it to happen here. So those are the conditions I would suggest, and let's see if we can articulate them again. The hours of operation are 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. in all areas. There will be no outside entertainment. There will be no amplification in the bar area. Anything else? Oh, a one-year review, and a review if there should be any change of management or ownership.
Can I ask one question, just so we're clear?
Sure.
This perhaps is for petitioners. Will you be having just one entertainer at a time? Are you proposing to have more than one entertainer at a time?
Do you want to answer that?
Have we ever had more than, would you ever think of having more than one at a time? No. I don't see a problem with having one entertainer at a time.
Okay.
One
entertainer.
one entertainer that may be two people.
Yeah, up to two people.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to just understand that. Yeah.
Okay, so add that as a condition, if you would, please, Mr. Pizzuti, that there be a 1 to 2 piece ensemble at a time, and in one location only.
Except for upstairs, which there only can be one.
Well, I think that'd be fine, but I'm going to defer to my fellow board members. I think a guitarist without amplification is a no-brainer upstairs, and not going to bother anybody. It's so well encased there, enclosed there. So, what do you think about that, Mr. Igo? Would you agree to that?
To have one guitarist unamplified?
One musician in that bar area.
Unamplified?
You all right with that?
Unamplified?
Unamplified, yeah. Okay? One up
I don't
there
know
without
about that.
amplification, and no more than 2 in any
It's
other
not going to be a
location.
vocalist then. It would have to be like an acoustic
I guess you're going to
guitarist.
have to go downstairs to where there may be amplification of that.
And I just want, could I just have one more clarification?
Yeah.
Because you said one of the conditions
I'm
was
going to
that
tell
it
you something,
wasn't
we're going to get to
that
the
it
end of
wasn't-
this pretty damn quick, so go ahead. What's your,
Maybe I should just review it again. I can watch it again.
Oh, go
But
ahead.
I thought
What's
that
your
when you said that there wasn't going to be any outside entertainment, what are you referring to on that? Outside entertainment?
Beyond the awning.
Beyond the awning, but that's
on
not
the
where
awning?
our
Yeah,
location is.
that's an enclosure.
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be just in those areas that are designated on that plan.
Yeah, well, on what we were just received with the yellow line on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay? All right,
If that's good, I'll
we
be,
got to have a vote on it. First, let's vote on would someone consider a motion?
I'll make a-
To waive the 2-year requirement on the site plan?
I'll make a motion to waive the 2-year site plan requirement.
All right, I'm going to just do this by voice vote. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that's a unanimous vote on that. Now let's go to a roll call vote on a motion that needs to be presented. So somebody present the motion, and we'll go on from there.
I'll be glad to make a motion to approve this request as a variance with the conditions that we outlined previously.
Does anybody need to hear those articulated again? Okay, not hearing. Anybody wanting it?
Second.
Let's do a second on the motion, and then, thank you, Mr. Frapery. A second on the motion.
I'll second.
And you did the first one too, right? You seconded it?
Yeah, I
I
will.
heard you, yeah. All right, so we've got two with Mr. Frapery And Mr. Mintoni, I'm sorry, guys, let me just catch up. So please note that in the decision, in the draft decision as well, that the waiver has been passed unanimously. On the motion now made and seconded regarding the grant of a variance on the conditions we've discussed, Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Mantoni?
Aye.
Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that carries unanimously. Once the decision is completed and filed with the town clerk's office, 20 days must elapse before that condition is considered a granted variance. And that then will be needed, you'll need to bring it to the Registry of Deeds to allow the Registry of Deeds to get a recording fee out of you, and then bring the proof that it was recorded back to the board.
Do we have to withdraw the special permit?
Huh?
Do we have to withdraw the special permit?
Which special permit?
They requested,
Oh, yeah, you requested in the alternative, didn't you?
Yes.
Would you like to have that withdrawn without prejudice?
I have a decision on it? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Without prejudice.
Yeah, without prejudice, of course, yeah. Mr. Frape, you moving?
make a motion.
And you, Mr. Mantoni, you second? Roll call vote, all those in favor of the allowance of the withdrawal of the request for special permit, that withdrawal to be without prejudice, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries unanimously. Good to see you. Thanks.
Nice
Have a
to see you,
night.
and thank you for your indulgence.
It's been far too
your
long,
time.
so.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
In other
Chairman,
words, other people would like to
Much
get
as
on,
well.
up here as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I think there was a third request for relief on that petition.
Oh, the withdrawal for the building commissioner's appeal. We'll withdraw that, too.
Is that separate relief?
Yes, there's 3 of them.
Oh, okay. You'll withdraw that without prejudice as well?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Igo.
Yes, Mr. Igo. Yeah, good to have somebody on his feet.
That's because he's relaxed. Look at him.
Make a motion to
Can I take
make a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
the request to overturn the building commissioner's decision?
Correct.
Mr. Frape, did you second that? Did I
I'll
hear?
second.
All right, roll, just a voice vote, please. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Good night.
Very much. I guess I went.
Happy holidays if I don't see everybody.
tried
Everybody
to
in the
keep
room.
it.
Happy holidays. Brings us to our next petition, 5064, that of Cameron Santos of 9 Captain Bessie Road in South Yarmouth, zoning in District R40, also within the Aquifer Protection District. The applicant seeks a variance under 401.1.2 to store an RV 6 feet beyond the front of the home and/or in the driveway for maintenance and repairs. Who's here?
This is me. This is.
Is that
Cameron.
you?
Yes, Cameron.
All right,
Santos,
well, Mr. Santos, why don't you tell us all about your petition?
Sure. I hope it's not as contentious as the last one.
That wasn't contentious, it was just long, so let's make yours short.
All right. My main concern is I'd just like to be able to work on the RV and perform routine maintenance in my driveway. And also, when it is in storage beside my house, currently I had to take down a section of fence in order to put it behind the frontage of the house. So I'd just like a variance to have 6 feet beyond the front of the house to store the RV when I'm not using it. And
Okay,
just to clarify, I've never lived in it, never have anyone lived in it. It's not connected to any shore power or anything like that.
okay. Well, let's start with Mr. Mantoni. What are your thoughts there, John?
Well, I was out there this morning, so you moved some fence,
Yes.
and because the RV looks as though it's pushed far enough back from my
Yes,
concern.
it's currently, I addressed the complaint that I received because I didn't want to be in violation, but.
Right, so
it-
that's fine there, as far as I'm concerned. It was pushed back. I don't know what you did in the rear, it doesn't matter. So I don't have any issues or any questions.
Okay, Mr. Frapery?
I drove by it also, and it was behind the front of the house, so if you can keep it there, but I understand you want approval to move it forward, but I don't know that we can do that, so.
And The reason I'd like the approval is just because it is currently in my backyard. You know, it takes up a section of the backyard, and I also lost a gate that I had in the fence to move it back, so that's why I'd like it slightly forward beyond the house.
I understand the desire. I'm not sure we can do that, but
Yeah,
Understood.
we've been pretty consistent in not allowing what you're asking for tonight, but apparently it's not even an issue now. You're not in violation right now, is that right?
No,
But
I'm not.
If that's true, I guess we wouldn't even need to do anything here, but, yeah, if everybody agrees. But, Mr. Igo, what are your thoughts?
Well, he's asking for a variance, so we do have to take some affirmative action on it, and he doesn't meet the criteria for a variance. I've never seen this board in all the time that I've been here grant a variance for that type of relief. I would not be in support of it, and I would urge the board not to support it as well. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Mr. Martin?
Yeah, and once again, concur with that, as long as it's staying behind where it is now, then it's good.
We really
But,
can't hear you, Dick.
Yeah, I would say that as long as it's staying where it is now, it's good. But it should not be forward. It doesn't meet the criteria for a variance, just like others we've had.
Well, if you've watched this board on prior requests, you know we never grant it. And we're not going to start it here, unfortunately, but you're going
Right.
to lose part of your backyard, I'm sorry.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
nice to see you're in compliance. We do have to take a vote on your requested for relief. Anybody prepared to make a motion regarding
Can he
the,
withdraw it?
I'm sorry?
Can he withdraw it if he wants to?
Apparently, Mr. Igo thinks that we have to vote on it. Why is that, Sean?
Well, we don't, but when we say, I heard that the board say we don't need to take any action because he's not in violation anymore. That's not why he's here. He's
Oh,
here
you have to
ask
request,
for it.
sure, but if he requests the withdrawal without prejudice,
That's fine with
That's
me.
all right.
No, that's fine with me if he wants to do that. Yeah.
you want to do that? Because if we vote on it, it will be an absolute no, and then you,
Okay.
Yep.
May I just ask for clarification on the maintenance and repairs portion of my request? Because that's mainly, it really isn't, I can keep it where it is for storage. It's just that if I want to do anything working on it, it's really difficult on the side of the house. And as the laws are written, you're only allowed boarding and unboarding in your driveway. So something as simple as like an oil change couldn't be done technically.
do that in the side yard, right?
It makes it considerably more difficult.
Unfortunately, again, it's something we don't, in my memory, we've never done. We've never allowed it other than on a very temporary basis. And that, we watched like a watchdog to make sure those 30 or 60-day granted relief was completely complied with. I won't support it, you doing
I
maintenance
understand.
anywhere other than as allowed by our zoning. Do you want to withdraw your petition, or would you like us to vote on it?
May I ask for clarification on the implications? I'm not sure. I heard you say it would be a
Without
final.
prejudice, you can bring another request at any time.
Okay.
If we vote on it, you will not be allowed to.
I would like to withdraw without prejudice, please.
Okay, somebody prepared to make a motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice?
So moved.
second.
Who did, Mr. Igo or Mr. Martin?
Yeah.
Mr. Igo.
I did, Sean.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for considering.
Oh, wait a minute, we gotta do the vote. So I'm sorry to keep you here, but who seconded, did you, Jay? All right, so by roll call, to allow the withdrawal of the petition without prejudice. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Mantoni?
Aye.
And Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That carries unanimously. It's withdrawn without prejudice. Thank you. All right, brings us to our next matter, and that is, got to do it again. Petition 5065, Mark Simmons of 80 Mayflower Terrace, South Yarmouth, Mass. property which is in an R40 zoning district. This evening, our applicant seeks either a special permit under 104.3.2, subparagraph 2, and/or a variance under 203.5 of our zoning bylaws for front setback relief to build a shed within setbacks from the right-of-way on non-conforming lot. Who's here for that?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is on Zoom.
Okay, can we invite him in then? Is he on the screen now?
No, not yet. There's a little square there for him, Mark Simons. Oh, there's the hand.
Who asked to get him on the screen? Do you?
The technician does, sir.
Oh, okay. Perhaps he's not listening to the meeting. Would you suggest that?
He is.
You invite
I'm
Mr.
here.
Simmons in, please?
Yes.
We're trying.
Mr. Simmons, can you hear us?
Ask him.
Yeah, why don't you? Because, let's get this moving along after that last one. There he is, but we don't see you.
There we go.
Go.
All right.
Good to see
How we
you.
doing tonight? Good to see you too.
Go ahead, Mr. Simmons. Tell us all about your project. What you looking for?
I just want to add a shed to the backyard. There's a right of way that was not quite sure what the right of way really is, but we have a right of way next to our house, and as of right now, the way I guess it would read is that we'd have to have the shed in our backyard. It'd have to be, I believe, 30 feet away from the right of way, and obviously that would be the middle of our backyard. So I just wanted to see if I could possibly get a variance to have the shed like 6 feet away from the right of way.
For a shed?
How big is the shed?
We don't have dimensions.
We're settled on 8 by 12.
8 by 12.
And you talk about a right-of-way. There's a sheet that depicts 4 lots, 4 lots on one side of Mayflower Terrace, with what appears to be a right-of-way between, unfortunately, they're not numbered, other than 11967 and 11966. Is that the right-of-way you're speaking of?
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to pull that up, but I believe so.
And the proposed shed is going 6 feet from the property line?
6 feet from the right of way line.
What's Wild Rose Terrace used for, if anything?
Nothing. It's just, it was an old, I don't know what it really was ever used for. The neighborhood uses it just to go down to the water.
It's not
At
paved?
one point, it looks like it was tarred. It's all rubble now. It was probably tarred in, I don't know, 1970s or something.
Can you visually see a path on the ground?
You can see a path on the, you can visually see where there was old tar. It's basically just all rubble now.
People drive up and down it?
No. There's no vehicles.
Thank you. I shouldn't have gone out of that order that we usually go. We'll start with you, Jay. Any questions?
Yeah, so it's 8 by 12 is the size of the shed as far as the dimensions? And how high is it?
Yes.
How high are
It came in about 11 feet total at the peak.
you? Okay. Other than that, I don't have any questions. There's a shed there now, and I guess that shed is in the middle of the right-of-way, and that's your neighbor's shed, is that correct?
I don't know whose shed that is. I know it's not ours. I bought the property in June. So I don't know what the deal with that shed is.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Yeah.
All right. Can I see the site plan here? Mr. Frapery, any I'm sorry, Mr. Mantoni, any questions?
Do you know who owns that right away?
Okay, so we kind of went and poked around at everything on it. But I mean, basically, I even had my lawyer look at it. Basically, it looks like it was just a right of way that was written when they originally developed this street. So it's almost like it's a residential right of way to the water. I'm not quite sure if anyone will ever know who technically owns it.
I don't have anything else.
Mr. Igo?
I don't have any questions. I do have a comment.
Please do.
It appears that the reason that this unimproved road, it creates a front setback for him. My thoughts are perhaps we could consider granting him a variance for his shed conditioned upon that road never being developed. And if it does get developed, then he's got to move it. But I don't think this road's ever, or this unimproved, well, it's an unimproved, we don't even know what it's, if it is a road, but unimproved terrace. But at this point, I doubt it's ever going to be developed because I don't know that you could. But at any rate, that would be a suggestion that I might have for the board. That's all I have.
And
I have
how do
no
you
problem with
find,
that if
how would you suggest the criteria for a variance is met?
Well, the criteria for a variance, I think it's a hardship for him not to be able to use the side of his house. Okay, the side lot line. What he has here is he has what's considered a front lot line, but it's not a true front lot line because it's not really on a public way. It's on an unimproved piece of, I don't know, a little path to the water. So I think this boils down to the shape of his lot. And I think the shape is what's affecting it. I don't think we'd actually be derogating from the purpose and intent of the bylaw if we granted such relief. And I don't think it's going to be substantial detriment in any way. I don't think it's going to be any type of a detriment. It's a little shed that if it were a side lot line, he wouldn't even be before us because he'd be in compliance with the zoning. As I said before, I don't think it's ever going to be improved, but we could put a condition in there that if it ever is approved, then he has to come in compliance with the zoning.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Igo?
Nothing else. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I agree with that too. I don't think there's any chance that that little spur will ever be built. I think it's actually, I'm pretty sure Mayflower Terrace is a town road, and that was part of that same subdivision. So that's literally just providing access to off-water people to get down to the water via the path. I can't imagine anybody ever improving it. So I think it meets the criteria as specified by Mr. Igo, and I think that it makes sense to give relief in this particular case.
Thank you. I want to let everybody know there's no correspondence, but does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone, tell us who you are. Seeing none, does anybody care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, come to the microphone. And seeing none, so we now close it to the public input. I have a couple of questions. I'm sorry, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. Is this a home, do you have a homeowners association here?
A very loose one.
Well, to me, this looks like what was intended to be an access road to the pond for the subdivision. And if anybody managing
it
it?
could have been originally that way, yes.
What?
It certainly looks that way to me too, yes. That, but there really is no, there's a loosely formed one association for the neighborhood, which has nothing to do with the road really, but to take care of the saltwater pond in the back that leads to.
Okay. Well, usually when the developer leaves, the road, the rights of the subdivision go to the managing entity of homeowners association, and they would, in fact, get the title to the Wild Rose Terrace property. But in this instance, you don't have any kind of an association that's likely to develop this road, huh?
No.
All right,
No.
so you understand that if in fact a variance were to be granted, it would be so long as Wild Road Terrace is not developed.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I agree with everyone else that I don't foresee it ever possibly being developed for anything. But, so I can agree to that.
All right. Let's do a roll call. Anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as requested with the conditions cited that if the road is ever developed, then the petitioner has to move the shed in compliance with the zoning requirements.
Okay?
I'll second that.
Mr. Martin seconds. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Mr. Mantoni, please.
Aye.
Who are you again? You're either Frapery or Mantoni, I know, one or the other. Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
And Mr. DeYoung is an aye. It carries 5-0, sir. A decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. Once it has been filed, 20 days must elapse. That's a technical waiting period in case one of your interested parties in the butter or the like is interested in appealing it to a court. That not occurring, the variance will issue. You must bring it to the Barnstable Registry of Deeds and record it. And once it's recorded, to return proof of that you've done so to our wonderful administrator of the zoning board, Ms. Dolores, sitting to my right, okay?
Thank you very much.
Do we have to withdraw the special permit request, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please. You have also requested a special permit in the alternative to the variance. You've got the relief you want, but we can't just leave the request for a special permit out there. So in the usual course, you would ask us to withdraw that without, be allowed to withdraw it without prejudice, meaning if for some reason in the future you needed to bring it, you wouldn't be prescribed from doing so, okay?
That sounds great to me.
You want to do that, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Roll call vote, please, on that. I mean, a voice vote on that. Somebody
So
make a
moved.
motion first.
So moved.
Make a motion to approve, to withdraw.
You're actually gonna be the second. I heard Mr. Igo move. And that's to allow. Huh?
Couldn't hear him.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably need my hearing aids. To allow withdrawal without. All right, sir, thank you very much. Happy holidays to you, please.
Thanks, you too. Thank you very much.
We got to have a vote on that, Mr. Chairman, don't we?
What?
A vote.
Oh,
Did
we didn't have a
we-
vote on it. I said, I'm sorry, let's do a voice vote. Jeez.
Yep.
Getting late. Let's do a voice vote on it. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well, and therefore it carries unanimously. Thanks, everybody, for keeping me straight here tonight. I'd like to take a 5-minute break if we could. I know everybody really anxious to get home, but I would like to take a 5-minute break, okay?
Yep.
That's fine. We're good.
So moved.
So don't talk bad about me while I'm gone.
We don't know what else to say about you then.
offensive line, he's got all the things, you and I could do the job he's doing, because, almost. But he's got all the receivers, running backs, front, his offensive line gives him all day, you know? So you don't really know how good that kid is. Exactly. He looks like, Tom Brady, but.
We'll see when they'll have their struggles over the years. We'll see if he's able to maintain
Well,
it.
that's eventually, like you can see, like, Kansas City was in that situation a few years back. Now you can see they're losing some of their key players and things out of, oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. Mr. Martin, Mr. Igo, are you there?
Of course we are.
All right, if you two could hang in a little bit after we're done with the minutes and the like, I just have a quick personnel issue I'd like to discuss with all the board members.
Okay.
Thank you. It brings us to our next petition, which is, the fellas here? Oh, okay. Which is Vinicius Pereira. Have I said that right? Yes. And 62 Monroe Lane, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Property in an R40 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit pursuant to 407 to create of the bylaws, to create a family-related accessory apartment. With you is Mr. Machado?
Mr. Machado, it's me. I'm helping my friend over here.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Pereira.
You're the petitioner.
So he's
Good
the owner
evening.
of the house, yeah.
Good evening.
So he bought the house like 6 months ago, and he tried to rent the house, so it didn't went well. It's hard to work with tenants, so then he had to leave where he is right now in 3-4 months. So then he moved to his house, his own house. And in his mind, it will be a good improvement to his family because right now in his house he have a wife, a year-old kid, and his brother. So moving to the new house which he owns, in his mind he called me and say, hey, what about if you do just a little apartment to my brother, just so he can have his own home private room, and I can have my private room with my wife and kid. And I hold a CSL, and I told him what I can do for you. I'm gonna do every legal way to do it. Show you the path, the good way. Thank you, Dolores, for the help. They helped us a lot with this process because it's my first time in a meeting like that. I didn't know how it worked, so if it wasn't her, you know, not gonna be here. Thank you. And here we are.
Doing a good job, let me tell you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sure there'll be questions. Mr. Frapery?
I kind of understand what you're going to do, and it looks reasonable. I guess the one question I had is, it looked like once the work is done, that the current house may only have one method of egress. I don't know if you can do that.
But I'm talking about the new unit. It does have two. It does have the e-glass window from the bedroom, and another door, exit door, behind of the house. So it's two e-glass.
I mean, the existing house, once it's closed off, is there going to be a second exit other than the front door?
Let me ask him. Brother, vai ter outra saída.
I think you have to have two, don't you?
Well, there's a pathway to it. There's a, guys, let me ask you a question, okay? This door in the
All going to be.
in the furthest room, where you're talking about the apartment, that door leads into a utility room over here, is that what it is?
No,
This leads to the outside of the
This is the
house.
new floor plan, this is what they're proposing. So
Yeah,
this,
this door remains though, right?
yeah, but it's all gonna be part of the accessory apartment, and then this
Oh,
will be the
there's
front
nothing.
door, and I don't know where the back door is gonna be.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I'm not sure if you can get it approved without two egress, I could be wrong, but,
Yes. So asking him, he told me it is a great idea, so he don't mind. Actually, that's right. He needs not just a e-glass. He needs access to the
backyard,
backyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, he gonna do a door there for him.
maybe off the kitchen or something, I don't know where.
Yeah, probably the kitchen. Yes.
Or the existing bedroom. That
Yeah.
was the only question I had, it's just,
Are windows considered a
are they?
means
No.
of egress?
No.
No?
Well, they have to be a certain size, but I think they'll probably want a rear door on that, but you can get a rear door on there somewhere.
Yeah, I would think it should, but that was my only question, just to make sure you did, so.
Isn't that sliding glass door in the kitchen coming out onto a deck?
I don't
Oh,
know.
that's existing. Proposed, it disappears. Okay.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Yeah, the building department will make them do that.
Okay. But other than that, I'm comfortable, but I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Mantoni.
I just, what are the dimensions? How big, what's the square footage gonna be of the accessory apartment? Am I missing that somewhere?
Yes, that's a page there, because also to have in a legal way, I told him to hire a professional engineer to, without dimensions and everything, that's what he did. So yes, that's the page number 1.6.
How much?
1.6, the page 1.6.
Oh, okay.
Where do you see the square footage?
Calculated, so it's
We must have the total here somewhere.
14 by 22?
Well, I don't want to be doing the math. I want these guys to tell me their math. 14 by 22,
I don't know, that's
No, it
quickly
looks-
what I just,
It's like 22 by 24.
you see, there's a limitation on family-related apartments in terms of size, you know?
I remember we had that conversation with the engineer, and it's not here. I'm pretty sure.
Looks like 24 by 22 or something like that.
Yeah, he's under the 800,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Looks
Yeah.
like maybe
yeah, you
500.
get 3.25 or something like that.
I was gonna come with 5, but yeah.
I think with the new room, I think Jay's right. I think you're probably around 500, but certainly less than the 8.
Certainly below 800.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, below 800.
all right, we can move on from it. Mr. Mantoni, any other questions?
No, I'm all set.
Mr. Igo?
No other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Martin?
I just concur with that. Jay's comments that they need another door in the main house, probably for the kitchen, I guess. But otherwise, it's just essentially finishing off a portion of the existing house and the garage into the in-law, and I think that's fine.
Anything else?
Nope.
Are you aware that you have to be family-related and certify that each year? And as the zoning law currently stands, if it's not family-related, then it cannot be used as an apartment. You can't rent it out to a third party, in other words, okay?
Yes, and he have affidavit. He signed affidavit saying that.
You have to do that annually, yeah, you know that. Okay, that may change in the near future, but it hasn't yet.
Right now, okay.
We'll see.
So just so I don't miss it, I can tell him. So he have affidavit, sign affidavit, saying like his brother will live over there. So he have to redo every year.
Every year.
Yes, and bring it to here. Okay.
Yeah, so to certify that it's a family person living in that apartment,
Yeah.
that's the current law.
Okay.
And it may change, but in any event, right, let's just deal with what's here before us today. Does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone. Seeing none, does anybody care to speak in opposition to this petition? Come right up, please.
Hi. My name's Sharon Blanchard. I live next door at 66 Monroe Lane. I do have some questions regarding 62. A family-related accessory apartment, that's an in-law apartment?
Well, people call it an in-law apartment. It's a
Is-
family-related accessory apartment, it's how it
Okay.
termed in our bylaws.
What, I couldn't really understand what you were saying, but is this going to be built down in a basement, or is this going to be in the back of the house?
The plans show that it's going to be taking over the garage space plus part of the house.
So it's going to be on the main floor? Okay.
That's the way it's outlined.
All right. Because he bought it, I believe, this summer. Yeah, and there's been multiple tenants there already.
Yeah.
Multiple renters. And
True?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he have a lot of issues with tenants. That's the reason he's turning this house to his primary home.
Yeah.
And he gonna move there with his wife and his brother.
Because
You know
I
how-
spoke to you this summer with all the vehicles parked in your backyard and in your driveway. Right now, there's 2 dump trucks in the backyard and a utility trailer. There's 2 cars in the primary driveway, and I believe would be a 4-car driveway. I don't know how many more cars he's going to put, but it doesn't look aesthetically correct in the neighborhood. I have a concern with that. He does have a dump truck that he runs, starts in the morning, and it goes right by my house. I understand that's his work truck, but it's just, there's been a turnover in this house, and it's been since June 1st, so I'm concerned how many times this is going to turn over. Is there going to be really 4 people there, or in 6 months, is there going to be 12 people?
If the relief is granted to him, he must be in residence in the property.
Because he doesn't live there now, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and the person that lives in the family-related accessory apartment must be family-related.
Okay, yeah.
And those, that's pursuant to the bylaw, and if it does not happen, then the building commissioner is gonna come in and start giving him violations.
That's all my concern is
Yeah,
the
I don't
amount of
blame you.
people, the trucks, the vehicles, in septic, I mean, was that mentioned? The septic must have to be upgraded, right? Because it's only a 2-bedroom house right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can't speak to the septic, the building department will deal with that. If he has an inadequate septic system, our grant of his right to use it as an accessory apartment doesn't trump anything of the building commissioner or the building code.
I just know this past summer, there was probably 7 people living in there.
Yeah.
And
It's either gonna stop or he's gonna be in violation.
that's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Okay. You know, a lot of people, they just open their house and allow people in, I'm sure. You are going to be an actual resident, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the issues he had with the tenants, because, I mean, for him, the money he paid for the house is a good money. So if you rent a house and a lot of people live inside of the house, they destroy the house. So then he was so aggravated about it, and I asked him about his truck. He still have a truck over there, and he told me, so I'm gonna tell you, he gonna remove the trucks just so he keep the neighborhood, because he loved the neighborhood. First time I went there with him, the neighborhood was nice and clean, so we love it. Yeah.
Essa mulher falou que não gosta de brasileiro, não?
All right, well, let's just stay on point here, okay? The trucks in the backyard, there's nothing we can do about that. It's unfortunate that you don't recognize you have a neighbor that, particularly if you're starting it early in the morning, that they find it offensive. Is it diesel trucks, are they?
Eu ask him, você tem carro diesel lá? Yes, it is diesel.
So, I mean, that's kind of annoying to listen to, and also annoying to smell. But, that's between you and, again, the building department. The requirements of the septic system suitable for whether or not this is a accessory apartment is allowed, it's, again, between you and the building department. We take no position on that, nor does the grant of relief here tonight entitle you to obviate or do away with the sanitation and building requirements, okay? All right.
They are going to require 3 off-street parking spots, all right?
What?
They'll require 3 off-street parking?
Well, is that, where are you looking at that, for family-related apartment?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your
They
answer.
won't require that.
You only allowed 3.
Yeah, you need at least 3.
So move the 2 dump trucks to another location, I guess, huh? Because they count as vehicles, obviously. All right. Anybody else in the audience care to speak in opposition to this petition? Hearing none, we now close.
The only thing I had,
You gotta come to the microphone. Let us know who you are and where you live.
I'm Paul Santos, 26 Kennedy Lane. So the only opposition I had is what this lady said, is that the trucks and the vehicles in that, in that house and on the property. I mean, I live right behind him, and I see cars driving around the back of the property. So is what he's putting on there, if I understood correctly, what he's building, it's going to be inside the house, not on the outside?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
No change to the exterior of the property.
All right, well, that's my concern, like I said, is the immense amount of vehicles that are there. It's crazy.
No, apparently within the, I've just been informed that there's a limitation of 3 vehicles. There is a limitation for how many vehicles anybody can have at any residence, and it has to be complied with. And violations of that are reported to the building department, and the building department will take action, punitive action, okay?
Okay.
So as much as I'd like this board to take care of the problem and tell them to move those trucks, we're not going to be successful in doing that.
Okay.
But you can do it. Call the building department. All right. Anybody else want to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, we now close it to public input on the petition. Mr. Martin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have no real issues with what's proposed here. It's disappointing to hear that the property hasn't been being maintained. I'm a little concerned that there have been rentals going on, that the petitioners here do follow the rule of the law relevant to what's going to happen here, and this not be 2 rentals, that this be in fact an owner-occupied house with a in-law apartment. So hopefully that's the case, but otherwise I think it meets the criteria, other than them adding some kind of door for that other egress, which is again a building department thing anyways.
Okay,
That's all I have.
Anything else, Mr. Martin?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Igo?
I agree with Dick. The petitioner does meet the criteria under the bylaw, and he presents an affidavit that his relative will be living in there, and the plans seem to suggest that everything's in compliance. So I will be supporting this petition. I recommend the board does as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Antoni?
Yeah, I don't have anything additional to add.
And how about you, Mr. Frapery?
I don't have anything additional either.
I'm going to tell you what, this board has consistently been in support of family-related apartments because of the housing shortage on Cape Cod. And perhaps something will be done to alleviate that. But right now, the only alternative is a family-related apartment for this sort of circumstance. But if you put somebody in there that's not family, that's a violation of our zoning bylaws, reported to the building commissioner, he will assess a daily fine, okay? Please be aware of that. So, you know, I support this too. If anybody's prepared to make a motion, please do so.
So moved.
And that's to approve the petition as offered?
That's as requested, no conditions.
Second.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Mantoni?
Aye.
Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. So that carries unanimously, 5-0, okay? Meaning 5 in favor, none opposed. Here's the deal. A decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. Once it's filed with the town clerk's office, 20 days must elapse before it's considered granted, fully granted. At that point, you have to take it to the Registry of Deeds, record it, and return proof that you have done so to Dolores Fallon sitting next to us, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank
Happy holidays to you.
Holidays.
Town of Yarmouth, 99 Buck Island Road is petition 5067. Applicant tonight seeks a variance under 203.4 for maximum building height of headworks building 36 and 4 inches to top of roof and 40 and 8 inches to top of parapet. The applicant requests a waiver from the requirement for a certified site plot plan less than 2 years old. And Jeff Colby?
I'm Jeff Colby.
Okay, well, this is indicating that you're offering it, but these gentlemen will tell us as well. Who wants to tell us what it's all about? You go right ahead.
All right, my name is Matthew Pitter. I work for CDM Smith. We are the consultant for the town, working with them on the design of the water resource reclamation facility. The site, 99 Buck Island Road, is the intent is to put what we'll call the WRRF for short, Water Resource Reclamation Facility. There are several buildings associated with this: the headworks, process building, associated tankage, chemical building, UV building, solids handling building, and various site improvements. It's also the current site of the water department building. The headworks building is why we're here. It is, as Mr. DeYoung noted, 36 feet 4 inches to the top of the flat roof and 40 feet 8 inches to the top of the parapet. I wanted to note that the parapet is there for safety reasons. You have a flat roof with HVAC equipment on it. When people are up there, you have to have something of a certain height. The driver behind the height of this building is, there are two. The first is the hydraulic grade line. So essentially, you need influent wastewater to flow downhill as it moves through the plant. So working backwards from the discharge location on site, the infiltration basins, we get up into the headworks, which is the first stop for wastewater as it enters the facility. So that needs to be relatively high. The second driver is the function of the headworks building itself. This is where larger solids like trash and things like that get into a collection system and grit are removed from wastewater. It's a key step to protect your downstream equipment. It's messy. This is not a building anybody here is going to go touring a few years into operation. The contents removed from the wastewater stream are dropped into containers, dumpsters over time. At first, they'll probably be smaller, like laundry chute type containers. So having that happen by gravity, allowing them to discharge from the headworks on an upper level at a certain elevation down into these dumpsters. And then I think you can see on the plans, for those of you that have them, there's garage bays where dump trucks or whatever can come, pull that out at grade and leave site. So, but again, the primary driver is hydraulic grade line. If we wanted to have a lower headworks, it would come with a very significant cost of adding intermediate pumping on site, which bears heavy capital cost and a long-term operation cost. Happy to talk about the site all day, but don't want to get too far from the point.
No, we'll talk about your petition, and then we all can go home and be happy. How's that? All right, so let's start with you, Mr. Mantoni. Any questions about petition?
Not really. I mean, you're saying it needs to be 40 feet to function properly. I don't have any addition.
Okay? And how about you there, Mr. Frapery?
No, I toured the property. I drove all the way around it. It's all fenced in. The closest street, the closest street I think is out through the woods off to the east. Yeah, if I remember correctly. This is going to be in the center of the property, which is well set back. It's a necessary thing. Can't wait for it to get started. So I just think it's required and necessary, and I'd support it.
Just making a couple of notes. Mr. Igo?
Yes, I agree with what I've heard. I do think the petitioner town does meet the criteria for a variance. I think a literal enforcement of this bylaw would be a financial hardship to the town. As the petitioner has indicated, if we had to drop that down, it would be financial cost to do so and long-term financial cost to maintain. I think the conditions are owing to the land, and that is the topography, as to the height and the elevations that this needs to be at in order to function properly. And the 40 feet is for safety purposes, having all that equipment up there. And I certainly think that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. No one's even going to see it, and nullifying is substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. I think it is the intent and purpose of the bylaw for us to grant a variance to certain town needs, and this is certainly one of them. So I do think they meet the criteria of the variance. I'm planning on supporting it, and I would recommend the board support it as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Igo. And how about you there, Mr. Martin?
Couldn't say anything any different. I would agree with everything Sean just said, and why it meets the criteria and the necessary item that we're all gonna need. I know one of the abutters was asking for a possible fence along properties on Circuit Road North there. I don't know if any thought was given to that at all, or whether that's a little, I mean, I guess this is really pretty far away, although the height is a, concern, I would think, for some people in terms of their viewscape. But I guess I'd ask the petitioners, was any thought given to that request?
So I believe the request that you're referencing is one that's relatively recent. I don't.
Could you speak up, please?
Sorry. I believe that the request that's being referenced here by Mr. Martin is relatively recent. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same one. It was a handwritten letter received.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, yeah, the letter was actually about trees, not a.
I'll get to it.
So maybe best to read, do you want to go through the letter?
Is that what you're referencing, Mr. Martin?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is a
And
letter.
again, that may be looking for a little more than is logical, especially considering the distance of the building, but the height concerns me, and I'm hoping that none of the abutters to this site have to look at anything that's too obtrusive.
Well, I think what you're referring to is there is a letter from Charlie Lyon, who lives at 11th Circuit Road North in West Yarmouth, Mass., who writes, "The only comment I have is perhaps a line of arborvitaes could be planted along the edge of the field. When the leaves are down, I can see the clearing and buildings." That doesn't seem like an outrageous request, so what are your thoughts there?
Not having a significant amount of time to have thought about it, maybe Mr. Colby would be best to respond, and I can try to supplement where possible.
Sure, Jeff Colby, Public Works Director. We don't have any objection to that. If that's a condition of the approval, that's fine with us.
You know, my neighbors put in a hedgerow, a line of arborvitaes and, or whatever the plant is. They're now about 25 feet tall, and they've spread out into my yard by about 5 feet, taking away valuable parking spaces. But it's not to complain about, because they can't see me, I can't see them. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to have a natural screen. But this is one of the most austere-looking buildings I've seen in ages. It's a shame the architecture can't be different, but I'm assuming this is utilitarian, is that right? And the height is a very unique circumstance. We never, so you know, as long as I've been on the board, this is for the only one that I can remember where we're going to allow somebody to exceed height, assuming the board votes in favor of you. Because unfortunately, that's one bylaw that's been written in stone, and nobody seeks to change it. So we always enforce it. But, in this instance, again, the building ain't pretty, but it's needed, so there you go. Anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of the petition or in opposition to it? If so, come to the microphone, tell us who you are. Seeing none. We now close the public input. We open up the board discussion and deliberation. Anybody prepared to make a motion? Or does the board want to have any discussion before proceeding?
I'd be glad to make a motion to approve the request as stated.
Second?
Second.
Is that with the conditions of arborvitae's being planted?
Yes, with the conditions of the arborvitae's. In the section, it's on the east side to block the building view. I don't think you need to do it across the entire back section.
I'll second that.
Well, how long is the fence back there?
Well, there's a chain link fence that goes around the entire property, which is several acres.
I don't think that's is that what's being suggested?
No, I think we'd have to look at the specific location where this would have the most benefit to the particular abutter.
Perhaps they could submit a plan for us, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, sir?
Perhaps they could submit a plan to us later on showing where they're going to run the arborvitae's to shield it from the concerned neighbor. And if we have to make any additions to it, maybe we could suggest it then. But I think that was the intent of where the plantings were to be, not certainly not around the whole perimeter.
Well, let's get specific. We have a plan.
Well, specifically, it's on the east side, facing to the east, and it's the length of the buildings at minimum. The main buildings being the storage tanks, the solid handling building, and the headworks building. Those are the ones that I'm referring to.
How long is that fence at that location?
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
How tall, how long?
I don't know off the top of my head, there's a few hundred feet.
A few hundred?
Yeah, when you get that far back.
I see a few hundred feet of arborvitae's, but I also don't want to have it just the dimension of the building, because the sight line from right or left is still going to put the building in somebody's view when they wake up in the morning. So I think it needs to be long enough to allow for the abutters to not be in view of the buildings. How does that sound?
Yeah, that certainly makes the most sense, most pragmatic approach.
Would that be satisfactory to you, Mr. Frapery, and to you, Mr. Mentoni?
Yes.
With the condition that the arborvitae's be planted along that easterly side, right, easterly facing, and sufficient to
Obstruct the view.
sufficient to obstruct the view of the abutters.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it to your good conscience to do what's, not to your good conscience, to follow the letter of that, okay? You leave it to somebody's good conscience and we get in trouble, don't we? All right, so, thank you, gentlemen. We now need to have a motion made. It's been made by Mr. Frapery. It's been seconded by Mr. Mentoni. Does the board care to have any discussion before moving it along to a vote? Hearing none. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Mentoni?
Aye.
Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So a decision will be drafted, will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days must elapse from the day it's filed. That's a technical waiting period should somebody, unless somebody should wish to appeal our decision tonight. Assuming there be no appeal, it would then be a document that you would need to take to the Registry of Deeds and record it there, returning proof of recordation back to Ms. Fallon, and that would then complete the grant of the variance, okay? Thank you, gentlemen, good night.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Fallon.
Happy holidays. Petition 5068, that of, I'm sorry to anybody that wanted to see the basketball game, that we're now 8:20. Petition 5068, Cobia Enterprises LLC, at 473, 479, 487 Station Ave, South Yarmouth. A property located in a B1 APD and road district. United applicant seeks to amend decision 4801 dated September 5, 2019, with a restoration landscape plan to plant 18 new replacement trees. Well, I got to tell you, before you announce who you are, I drove by that site and I was so disappointed. But be that as it may, let's go on with the petition. What are you going to tell us about it?
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport. With me at the table is Michael Gazzacco from Colbia Enterprises, as well as John Barbara, who is the contractor on the site. Online in Zoom is Rich DeFusco, who is the landscape architect who prepared the plan before you. So, first thing I want to say is I am sorry that you have to be spending time at the end of this long meeting listening to us. The applicant made a commitment to save 35 trees at the site. As everyone knows, 18 of them were removed. It was wrong, it was a mistake, and I'm going to be the first person here to apologize tonight. And Mr. Gazzacco and Mr. Barber do want to speak briefly. What I just wanted to relate to you from the zoning, or from the legal point of view, is, you know, what happened, happened. We're here to discuss it tonight. It was a screw-up. What we are legally asking you to do, ultimately, if you're willing to, is to accept the revised landscape plan that has been submitted. We did label all of the new, the replacement trees in red, and that is ultimately, at the end of the evening, we would ask you to vote to accept that plan as a substitute restoration landscape plan. With that, I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. Gazzacco.
Please.
Good evening. Again, I reiterate our sincerest apologies. I know the owner of the company, Andy Deli Carpini, was here the last time. He was unable to make it this evening. He wishes to convey his sincerest apologies as well. He was not very happy to hear of this situation when it transpired. He gave verbal commitments to this board, and he does not take that lightly. We have built 50, I don't want to misspeak, I think it's 53 Seasons Corner Markets at this point in time. Never has this happened before with any of our contractors that we have used. This is not something that we intentionally took upon ourselves. It was a mistake by our contractor for removing trees that were intended to remain. They were looking at the wrong plan, and we apologize, and we intend to make it right by planting trees not meeting the same canopy coverage or caliper, but these are not inexpensive replacement trees that we're proposing. We are not coming here to say we're going to buy a little tree and put it here and think that's acceptable. We asked Rich DeFusco, who's here and can answer any specific questions about the landscaping. He's joining us online. You know, these are 4-inch plus caliper trees minimum for the replacements in the front, and then arborvitaes of a certain height, because that's how they're sold, in the rear and the sides. We would also, again, this is not tied to any decision, you know, at a significant cost to us. Obviously, this is a great cost for the project with these replacement trees, and we know we're happy to do it because we have messed up. We would also, not tied to your decision tonight in any way, shape, or form, we would like to donate a sum of money of $5,000 to the town of Yarmouth to use in a nearby park or to plant trees elsewhere within the city. Again, that's not tied to your decision this evening. It's something that we want to do to show that this is not something.
Despite our decision tonight.
Whatever
It will be
whatever that
welcome.
may be.
Directed to the town manager.
Because we want to show that this is not what was our intent was.
You know, I'm on the board with these gentlemen who work very, very hard. And one of them that works, who has worked hard for this town for eons, is Mr. Dick Martin, who you see up there on the top of that screen. And if anybody was, I remember the meeting, believe it or not. And if anybody was adamant about the not removing native trees, it was him. And I joined with him on that feeling. We all did.
I was here, sir.
You know, it's just tragic. It's tragic. You can't, what if we said to you, replace the same trees? I don't care about cost.
I don't know that we'd be able to.
Well, anyway, I'm going to shut up. Mr. Martin, what are your thoughts on the revised plan?
Mr. Martin, I believe you're muted.
You're muted. Dick, we can't hear you.
You're muted. Tell him he's muted. Get rid of that little red guy with the
Can you,
cross.
You guys turn them on.
Yeah, you can't, we can't hear you, Dick.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. I know
there you go.
I know it wasn't being heard
There you
very
go.
well
I don't have
before
sign
either.
language to tell you what to unmute.
Now I'm unmuted, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was awfully disappointed to see this, especially after we made such comments about it. And, you know, we're trying to keep Station Ave to looking a little bit better than some of the other commercial roads with, especially with new development like this. So it certainly was a shame to see. I am pleased, however, that Colby is making taking the position of trying to make it right. I mean, no, you're not gonna, a 4-inch tree isn't gonna replace a 14-inch tree, and unfortunately, there's not much we're gonna be able to do about that. But I'm pleased that they're trying at least. I'd like to make sure that, number one, that also everything is getting irrigated. I believe we were told that that was gonna be the case. The original decisions also included that the retention areas would have the buffer trees around the retention areas. I do not see that, at least in a few locations on this plan. Also, and I know this is original plan and there were some things that were agreed to that aren't showing on it, but I'm hoping that because they're not showing on what we're approving now, that doesn't get lost in the fray here as well. The back parking where there's 7 spaces, the middle space is also supposed to have I can't remember, a 3 or 4 inch caliber tree in there. So hopefully that doesn't get lost in the shuffle as well. I prefer that it be shown on the plan, because otherwise we'll be hearing down the road that, oh, well, that didn't show on the plan, so we didn't do it. So we need to have some corrections made. The retention area trees need to be added as well. And 4-inch caliber trees is okay. I'm hoping that again that this comes out looking good in the end, because I, as the chairman just mentioned, was not pleased to see what happened, and I heard it from plenty of people in town. What are they doing there? Why did they clear cut that lot? I guess I can go along with what's being planned here in lieu of the original plan, along with the amendments that were made to that original decision. So I guess I can be happy with that, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Igo?
I agree with everything that Dick said. I defer to his comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Antoni?
I'd agree. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Mr. Frapery?
I wasn't involved in the original decision, but I agree with everything that's been said so far, and it's disappointing, but glad to see they're trying to make efforts to rectify as best they can.
Can't undo what's done, can you? But you know, guys, mea culpa is fine. We understand mistakes occur. How in the world somebody doing your site work can be given the wrong plan is beyond me, but it's done. And we're not going to replace these trees by going out in the woods. Although I know a guy that used to do that down in Harwich on his own property. He had a tree farm down there. He had this incredibly large bucket that looked almost like a clamshell, but yeah, went down and took it right out of the ground. It's a fabulous operation to watch. But anyway, you know, I think your plan is great. I wish it were the original. We can't undo what you've done, as I've said. And you know, I know that nobody did it maliciously. I don't believe that for a second. You all came before us at that meeting in 2019, responsibly offering, you know, our concerns, or responding rather to our concerns in a positive way, and did some changes that we were looking for, came back and presented a good plan. That was unfortunately 4 years ago, was it? And now we find that the court process is all done, and so we move it along now to trees. Anybody prepared to make, well, let me say to the audience at home that there is no one in our audience here physically, so there's no one to speak in favor or opposition to this petition. Oh, yeah, was there? All right, so there is Dr. Woods, who is next door. He says as follows. He is your next door neighbor, as you know, by a email from December 13, 23. Thank you for informing me about Calebia Enterprises upcoming hearing. I received the notice and reviewed the documents related to the noncompliance with the order of conditions for the building of their facility. The plantings, I think he means that will abut my property, will not be installed until the end of the project, so until then, I have no concerns about the landscaping in our site. The landscaping proposed seems reasonable to me. However, I would like to request that the board require a fence be installed at the rear of Calivia property to eliminate the easy access to persons who wish to trespass over my property to park their vehicles on our lot if the Calivia parking becomes full. That's a reasonable request.
Well, if I might respond, Mr. Chairman? A couple of points, and I would like to respond, just to make sure, a couple of things that Dick had mentioned, because I want to address those. As far as the issue about a fence in the back, besides the fact that there's way more parking, given you have the drive-through stacking and the pumps and everything here, if you look at the plan, look at the back of the plan we gave you, 95% of the back of our property is the drainage basin.
Is what?
Is the retention basin, the bioretention basin.
Oh, yeah,
With
yeah.
trees around it. So there's no way that anyone can walk through there because it's a bioretention basin. And at the other, where it's not the bioretention basin, you have a dumpster with all the landscaping. So in this particular case, I don't think a fence is gonna add anything just because it's not usable space, particularly because it's the bioretention basin. So respectfully, I don't think a fence would add anything here. I would like to, though, to that point, I just pulled out the decision after listening to Dick's, Dick wanting to review the conditions, and for the retention basin, it says buffer trees shall be maintained or planted as required along the edges of the bioretention basins where the same abut the property lines. And those do show on this plan. The rear of the retention basin does have both new and existing trees shown along it on the property line. So that condition, we believe, is being met. As far as the new island, this is condition 8A, was a new island with one in-lot tree shall be planted in the middle of the row of parking behind the new building. Dick, I'm saying this for the record because it is not shown on the plan, but what they will do is they will push where the number 7 is now, right in the middle of those 7 spaces on the plan, there or next to it could be made into an island, and then the one more space will be just shifted. So you have the same number of parking spaces that the board approved, but you'd have that island, so condition 8A will be met. And then also in answer to a question that Dick mentioned, yes, the landscaping will be irrigated. There will be irrigation. So I just wanted to have those on the record in response, so the 3 things that he mentioned are yes, yes, and yes. And again, we apologize again. We appreciate you giving consideration to this plan.
So is the fence that's in the back right now, and it's an access fence, that's just temporary? Is that what you're saying?
No,
There are 2 fences along the rear of the property line at present. One is our temporary construction fence, which goes around the entire property. The other is Dr. Wood's fence on his property, there was a trespass and encumbrance on our property. He has since removed that, pushed it onto his property, and you'll see that on the plans. He did that maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and there's still a fence along that area, and you can see it depicted here on this plan, where it's actually a razor wire topped chain link fence.
It looked like it had it could be opened.
On his side, not on ours. Okay. And he's replaced the chain link fence and razor wire along our property line.
So that's going to stay?
That's going to remain, that's on his property.
It's his,
yes.
It's his too.
And we appreciate the concern, he raised it during the hearing process about trespass, about people parking on his property and walking over. So I absolutely appreciate that concern. When you look at the plan, it's such a heavy planting back there, and then the fence around the dumpster is part of that as well, and all of the retention basin and his fence, there's really nowhere that somebody could walk across. At least I can't see it when you look at the back of the plan.
That along with the 14 customer spaces along head-in at the front of the store, 7 parking spaces behind the store, and then an additional 12 parking spaces at the dispensers. That's an awful lot of cars at one time to be on our site, to overload it to the point where someone needs to park off-site.
Okay, and you're not using any Dr. Woods parking spaces now? in the
None
back?
at all.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And I would like to say, just for the record, I think the relationship between the parties has, improved, since before. And so I encourage, and I think they're talking, and I encourage that, to continue as well.
We want to be good neighbors.
I'm glad to hear that it's improving, because it was a mess last time.
The encroachment spoken of was resolved without incident. It was,
Okay. So anybody prepared to make a
Chairman,
motion?
just one, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Martin here, one clarification. Just on the retention basins and so forth on the plans, yes, there are some trees shown.
You know, Dick, is there any way you could get closer to the mic?
Yeah, I'm trying.
I can hear him.
You can?
Okay.
Somebody
Yeah.
needs to interpret for me then. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My fault. I'll try and figure out what's going wrong with this thing, or be there. But anyways, on the retention basins there, the properties to, we'll call it the south, toward the bike path there, it's still missing some trees in that area. There's just some shrubs.
This one.
There's another retention basin in the very front of the property, which shows one new tree, but it would look like there should be at least one more there as well. So I'm hoping that that will be carried through to fruition too, and not just what the plan is showing, because it's supposed to be the entire retention soils are supposed to be buffer planted with trees, not just shrubs.
We can address, you're talking about bioretention area number 2, Dick, up near the street.
Yeah,
So the,
it looks like that needs one more tree.
in what area is that missing a tree?
Well, I would say just just above and to the right of the planned tree in red that's shown on there.
So you're suggesting a
Quite a
second,
space there with just shrubs, I guess is the best way to put it.
you're suggesting a second red circle tree
Right.
to the above, looking at the plan, on top of the one that's there.
Right, and I'm not sure what the little, I think those are just little dogwood shrubs or something that is shown on the far back one. Again, on that side,
Maybe.
and that should be again planted with trees over toward the bike path. Not just in back toward Dr. Wood's property.
Well, the ones towards Dr. Woods are already, they're shown on the plan.
That's correct.
Yep, so you're just
And there's
talking out.
two new ones in the corner.
Correct, there are 2 new ones in the corner plus all the existing
Right
in the
below
back.
that, there's a bunch of little shrubs. There
Which-
should be at least one more tree in there.
Oh, towards the bike path.
Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, so you're talking for bioretention area number 1, Dick, you're talking now about facing left towards the bike path.
That's correct. That would be correct.
So an additional tree there, an additional tree on bioretention area 2 as well.
Is that, we're just trying to make sure, Dick, so what Michael was saying is.
Yeah,
you're
that's okay, that's correct, and that meets what was in the decision before relevant to how that was
Okay.
written.
And our landscape architect is on and will confirm that those plan changes get
Okay.
made.
Thank you.
Yep, okay, I noted those down on the, yep.
And also, I know, it was just mentioned that there were 7 spaces in back. I think there's only going to be 6.
Well, there's 7 spaces in the back. The goal would be to put a planting area where 7 is and move the 4 or 3 on that side over into the
Okay, all right, that's right.
landscape area to keep the same amount of green space, but to pull in that tree well that was requested.
I'm good with that.
Okay? That's doable?
Yes, oh yes, thank you, yes.
Okay, well, with that, and just so I understand, this front area will be fully sprinkled, right?
Yes, sir. All of the landscaping will have landscape irrigation.
Yeah, because, I don't know if you've ever been interested to watch prior meetings, but we've got a plaza down here that every time we look at it, we say, there's no water for the trees you just put in, they're dead.
We care for our landscaping, and we keep it up very well.
I've seen your properties, and I know you do. But this is our property in Yarmouth, and we want to make sure it's right for Yarmouth, okay?
We'll put on the record that we will supply landscape irrigation to all the.
Okay, anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'd like Dick to make this motion.
Who?
Dick.
Dick, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I can. I move to approve the, looking for the number, I lost it, but the petition as requested by the petitioners with the clarifications that have been brought up. Additions and clarifications.
Mr. Singer can write all those in.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, you better be, because I can't figure it out.
I'm taking notes. I will get you a draft.
Second.
Is that Sean?
Yeah.
Unseconded.
Yes.
Board care to have any discussion on the motion made with the conditions so stated before moving it along to a vote? Hearing none. This is only a revision of an existing permit. We don't have to meet any other criteria other than we think it's appropriate. So let's go with a roll call vote, unless somebody wants to talk about it. I don't mean to push you. Hearing none, then. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Antoni?
Aye.
Mr. Frapery?
Aye.
And Mr. DeYoung is an aye, so that's 5 ayes. You know the drill.
I do. Thank you very much.
I
We
look forward to a
appreciate
draft, okay?
it. I will. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. Looks like it's going to be a pretty station when it's done.
Thank you.
The building went up quick.
Keep up the good work.
Quick, it should be done.
Yeah, they want to make money.
Timeframe.
Now that that lawsuit's all worked out, huh?
Popped up at a.
All right, let's see you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We have
You can leave
minutes
the-
to,
Yeah, you two, please have a wonderful holiday, and if you can shut the door when you leave.
we have minutes to approve, Mr. Chairman.
What did he say?
Mr. Chairman, there are some minutes. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Mr.
no,
Mr.
I've got
Mr.
them here.
Igo looks like he's ready to make a motion.
Yeah. I've reviewed them, and
I'd
I
like
think
to
they're
make
fine.
a motion that we approve the minutes of October 26, 2023.
Second.
So I can't vote on the 26th, but,
I can't either.
oh, you can't either?
I don't think so.
So,
I mean,
so there's only 2 of you here for the 26th.
That's approved next week.
What? You say that was enough?
I think so.
For the minutes, let's do it.
all right.
You two, what? What, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
All right, do we have another one where I was,
Yes, move to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2023.
Second.
Second.
all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. What? Anybody opposed? Carries unanimously. Those are the 2 minutes. Are we now done with our regular business?
Are there executive session minutes from the June 22nd?
Move to approve the executive session minutes of June 22nd, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, it carries unanimously. No, yeah, we can close the meeting, yeah.
But will you lose them?
Huh? Yeah, I've asked them to stay.
Okay.
Yeah, is it okay now? Why don't we tell the gentleman,
Just- yeah.
somebody move to adjourn, please.
Move to
Move
adjourn?
to adjourn.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Adjourn the meeting, but please leave the Zoom on.
So you're going to go into an executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, if
yeah.
you're
You should
adjourned.
probably put that on record, that you're going to go into executive.
We're going into executive session to discuss a matter of employment. do we know that that's occurred?
We have one person on Zoom. That's
There are two.
not. Yeah, no, there's an outside person on Zoom.
Well, they gotta get out of here.
I can't kick them. Like, we would have to start a whole new separate Zoom,
Would we ask the person to leave?
Good.
but it won't prevent anybody from coming
coming
into
in.
it.
Do we know who the person is?
Susan?
Who?
Susan.
Susan.
But it's still open, is what I'm saying. Anybody could come in, click the link, and get into your executive
So
session.
how do we make it that just the members of the board?
So what I'll have to do is I'll
Yes.
have to shut down this Zoom meeting and set up a separate Zoom meeting,
How long is that gonna take?
5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, please.
Okay.
Anybody want a cookie while we're waiting?
We have some, would you like it?
Yeah, you guys got robbed.
Yeah.